The first time Emily heard the name Daniel Moore after so many years, she dropped the coffee mug she was holding. The ceramic shattered on the kitchen tile, spilling dark liquid across the floor like a spreading memory. Her husband, Mark, rushed in from the living room, concern etched across his face. Are you okay?" he asked, bending down to pick up the larger shards. Emily blinked, realizing she had been standing frozen, heart pounding. I'm fine. I just got startled." Mark stood and looked at her carefully. "Are you sure?" She forced a smile. "Yeah, just clumsy this morning." But she wasn't clumsy. She hadn't been startled by a sound or a sudden movement. She had been startled by a name she overheard on the morning news: Daniel Moore, now a local businessman and apparently considering a run for city council. The problem was Emily used to know Daniel Moore. Know him in a way that made her stomach twist at the sound of his name. And no one, especially not Mark, knew about that part of her life. It had been nearly 12 years ago when Emily, then 22, had spent a whirlwind year in Atlanta after college. Trying to find herself, she had taken a job at a marketing startup. That's where she met Daniel. He was smart, ambitious, and charming in a way that pulled her in fast. The relationship had burned hot and ended in absolute disaster. Daniel wasn't just controlling. He was manipulative in ways that made her doubt her own decisions, her own worth. When she finally left him, she left behind more than just a relationship. She walked away from that entire chapter of her life. She moved back home to Tennessee, went to grad school, and never looked back. Until now. Mark poured her a new cup of coffee and handed it to her, still watching her with gentle concern. His eyes were always kind, steady. That was what drew her to him when they first met 5 years ago. He was different from every man she'd ever known, especially Daniel. They had a good life. A peaceful home in Nashville, a golden retriever named Toby, a garden Emily loved to tend to on weekends. Mark worked in architecture, and Emily managed social media strategy for a nonprofit. They had friends, a routine, a shared vision for the future. They'd even been talking about starting a family soon. And now, Daniel Moore might ruin all of that. Emily didn't mention anything that day, or the next. But by the end of the week, the anxiety had built to the point where she couldn't sleep. Mark noticed. One night, as they were getting ready for bed, he turned to her, concern still in his eyes. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "You've seemed off this week." Emily paused, staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. "Something happened," she said slowly. "Someone from my past might be coming back into my life. And I don't know how to deal with it." Mark tilted his head. "Do I know them?" "No," she said, avoiding his eyes. "It's complicated." He didn't press. That was one of the things she loved about him. But she could see the question lingering in his expression. 2 weeks later, Mark came home from work holding a campaign flyer. Emily's stomach dropped when she saw the bold headline, "Daniel Moore for City Council." His face smiled out from the paper, polished and confident. "Do you know this guy?" Mark asked casually. "He's running for office now, apparently. I saw this posted at the coffee shop." Emily hesitated. Her heart was thudding. This was it. "I used to know him," she admitted. "We dated. Years ago. In Atlanta." Mark looked at her, surprised. "Really?" She nodded. It didn't end well. There was a silence between them, thick with unspoken questions. "He wasn't a good person, Mark. I don't even like thinking about that time in my life." Mark frowned. "Did he hurt you?" Emotions swelled in her throat. Not physically. But he knew how to break people down emotionally. He did it slowly, in ways I didn't even realize at first. I had to leave to find myself again. Mark reached for her hand. "You don't ever have to deal with him again, Em. That was the past." She wanted to believe that. But a week later, fate proved otherwise. She saw Daniel in person for the first time in over a decade at the local farmer's market. He was shaking hands with vendors, surrounded by campaign signs and a few volunteers. Emily froze mid-step when she saw him. She thought maybe she could just turn and walk away. But then their eyes met. And he smiled. That same familiar, disarming smile that once made her heart race and now made her stomach churn. Emily, he said, walking toward her like they were old friends. I thought that was you. She managed a tight nod. Daniel. You look great, he said, his eyes sweeping over her in a way that made her uncomfortable. It's been a long time. Yes, it has. I'm guessing you live here now, he asked. She didn't answer. He didn't wait. I'll be around a lot. Campaign season and all. Maybe we can catch up sometime. Talk about old times. I don't think that's a good idea. Daniel tilted his head. Still the same Emily. Strong-willed. She didn't respond. Just walked away. But Daniel didn't stay away. A few days later, she got an email. No subject line. Just his name in the sender field. And a single sentence. I remember everything. Do you? Panic clutched her chest. She deleted the email. But he sent another one the next day, this time more direct. He implied he still had photos, letters, things from their past that she'd thought she destroyed. And if she didn't meet him to talk, maybe he'd find someone else to show them to. Emily sat on the edge of the bed that night, the laptop open on her lap, and tears brimming in her eyes. Mark walked in and saw her face. What's wrong? She finally told him everything. About the relationship, the manipulation, the letters she'd written to herself during that time, part of her therapy and healing. About the journal Daniel had once taken from her and refused to give back. About how he now threatened to bring it all into the light. I don't want anyone seeing that side of me, she whispered. Especially not you. Mark sat down beside her. Emily, whatever is in that past, it doesn't define you. I know who you are. I love who you are. But if he makes it public, then we deal with it together, Mark said firmly. You don't owe him anything. With Mark's support, Emily decided to go to the authorities. She filed a harassment report. She also contacted a lawyer to send Daniel a cease and desist letter. The lawyer advised her that if Daniel did try to release personal material from their relationship, she could sue for emotional distress and invasion of privacy. Days passed without a word from Daniel. And then one evening, Emily received a final email. You always knew how to ruin a good thing. Good luck keeping your perfect life. It chilled her, but it was over. The silence that followed was the loudest relief she had ever known. Weeks later, Daniel's campaign quietly ended. Rumors of a personal scandal swirled, but nothing was ever made public. Emily never heard from him again. One sunny Sunday morning, she and Mark sat on their porch, sipping coffee. The garden bloomed in soft pinks and oranges around them. Toby lay dozing at their feet. I thought that secret would destroy us, Emily said quietly. Mark squeezed her hand. It didn't. It only proved how strong we are. She nodded, eyes wet with gratitude. I still have healing to do. But I know I can face anything, as long as you're with me. No more secrets, he asked.